For those participating virtually, whoever's ID'd as iPhone 3, if you could identify yourself.
This is Councilor Curran.
Focus, can you re-ID iPhone 3 as Counselor Curran? 413-736-0629. Can you identify yourself?
Bob McCarroll.
Thank you. Focus, can you re-ID that number as Bob McCarroll? SDF, can you ID yourself?
Sandy Federico.
Thanks, Sandy. Council will come to order. Members and guests, please rise and join me in a moment of silence. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can all be seated. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councillor Walsh?
Present.
Present. Councillor Fenton?
Present.
Present. Councillor Perez?
Present.
Present. Councillor Whitfield? Absent. Councillor Govan?
Present.
Present. Councillor Allen?
Present.
Present. Councillor Brown?
Present.
Present. Councillor Hurst? Absent. Councillor Click Bruce? Present. Councillor Edwards?
Present.
Present. Councillor Curran?
Present.
Present. Councillor Davila? Absent. Councillor Letterman?
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please let the record reflect that Councilors Walsh, Brown, Curran, and Perez are participating in the proceedings remotely this evening. Are there any reports of committee?
Yes.
Councilor Allen.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Reporting on the Finance Committee, which met today and talked about 10 items that were on our agenda. Presumably that's probably a majority of the items that are on tonight's agenda. We met for about 45 minutes, had good representation, good answers. Everybody that we needed there was there. And Councilor Govan and I were the two members of the Finance Committee in attendance. And she made a motion to approve the agenda, all the items, and I seconded it. So the items that were on our agenda, that are on tonight's agenda, have all been reviewed by the Finance Committee and approved.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. The General Government Committee met earlier this evening. In attendance were myself and Councilor Click Bruce. We had the opportunity to review two applicants for the Historic Commission who are with you tonight, one of whom, Vinnie Calcazola, came and presented in person his interest in the position of being appointed to the Historic Commission, and we concluded the meeting by making a full report and positive recommendation to this body.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. President. On October 10th, the Planning and Economic Development Committee met. The agenda item was the creation of a historic district on State Street next to Vibra Hospital. In attendance was myself and Councilor Perez as voting members, but we were also had the pleasure of Councilor Walsh, Councilor Click Bruce, Councilor Allen, and President Letterman, and I believe we also had Head of Planning and Economic Development for the City of Springfield, Tim Sheehan, Attorney Ken Shea, and we also had the pleasure of Erica Swallow, President of the Preservation Trust, Bob McCarroll, and Mr. Bone, all members of the Springfield Preservation Trust. The conversation was restricted to specifically what the agenda item was, which was the creation of the district. We did not move into any conversations about Vibra Hospital or the 17-acre parcel that was where this site exists. Item 15, which is on the agenda for tonight, from that meeting, what was expressed by representatives of the administration was the continual conversation of whether or not the original process or application for a historic district was created properly. So there was exchange and Attorney Shea and Mr. Sheehan expressed their concern of the process, and where we had listened to both sides of the issue, and we did not come to a vote, but it was generally accepted or concluded was that we would bring it back to the committee for tonight, and the recommendation for a conversation about whether or not to send it back, and that is what the agenda for 15 will be about, whether or not to send it back and allow for the process to start again. The administration's representatives recognize that there may have been a need for some housekeeping and clarification of the process of creation of historic districts. We try to avoid getting into a he said or the details of that, and so the item 15 tonight will be for us to have a vote to send and start the process over. There is no concern of the building coming down because there's been no pulling of a permit, and so there's no concern, and the administration has said that there is funding available for the hiring of an independent person to do the study.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Before we proceed, Madam Clerk, can you please recognize Councilor Whitfield?
Counselor Whitfield.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, I just wanted to...
Present.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Whitfield is participating remotely. Councilor Govan.
I just wanted to say that I was at that meeting. I'm not sure if I heard your name, if I heard my name. Thank
My
you.
apologies.
No worries.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Councilor Allen.
If I could just amend my Finance Committee report, I forgot to mention the counselors that were there, except for Counselor Govan, I mentioned, but also Counselor Walsh, Counselor Fenton, and Counselor Click Bruce, I believe, were the other three that were there.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Madam Clerk, before we proceed, can you please recognize Councilor Davila?
Counselor Davila. Counselor Davila.
Present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Davila is participating remotely. Are there any further reports of committee? Seeing no further reports of committee, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance of the reports.
On acceptance of the reports of committee, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown. Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst. Absent. Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The reports are accepted. Madam Clerk, please call item 1.
Item 1 is a zone change referral. It's 1267 Boston Road.
Madam Clerk, can you confirm this is on for first reading and automatic referral?
Yes.
Shall be considered read and referred. Madam Clerk, please call item 2.
Item 2 is to change the zoning of the property known as 93 Wilbraham Road. And it's also a zone change referral.
Madam Clerk, can you read the zone change, what it's to and from?
It's from Business A to Business B.
And this is on for automatic referral. It shall be considered read and referred. Madam Clerk, please call item 3.
Item 3 is from the City Council, confirmation of the appointment of Walter Kroll as to the Historical Commission.
Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask the detail officer, that door must remain open. If you could just instruct whomever is making that noise out there to quiet that noise for the duration of the meeting. On item 3,
Would you like me to repeat it?
we'll give it 1 second for
Okay.
the noise to subside. Madam Clerk, please call item 3.
So item 3 is the confirmation of the appointment of Walter Kroll to the Historic Commission.
Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Unless you see Mr. Kroll on, as a remote participant, I would ask that we continue this item to our next meeting. I think there may have been some scheduling mix-up. Walter wasn't able to make it to the committee meeting, and I think he'd like to be here for that vote. So
Certainly.
if you don't see him as a remote participant, then I would make a motion to continue.
Motion has been made to continue, second by Councilor Edwards. Is there any discussion on the motion to continue item 3? Seeing no further discussion, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to continue item 3, the appointment of Walter Kroll.
On continuing the item, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst, absent. Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman?
Yes, this item will be continued to our next regular meeting. Madam Clerk, please call item 4.
Item 4 is the confirmation of the appointment of Vincent Calcasola to the Historical Commission.
Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have quite a few historical matters on the agenda tonight. It's nice. The General Government Committee met earlier this evening, and as I said in my committee report, made a affirmative recommendation for Mr. Calcazola. I do see he's here tonight. Mr. Calcazola, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium over here. Mr. Calcazola is a resident of Springfield and has a background as a real estate agent. He's been involved in conveyancing related to historic structures and is interested in serving on the Historic Commission, so I do intend to support his appointment tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Sir, do you wish to address the council at this time?
Sure. Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, thank you, Council. Vincent Calcasola, 95 Bench Street, Springfield, Massachusetts, 0118. Thank you for the opportunity. Like Councilman Fenton said, I am a real estate agent. I've been licensed now for 2 years. I grew up in Springfield. I understand the importance of maintaining the character and the the importance of the characters and keeping the integrity of the landmarks. So I'm eager to learn my role and contribute the best way I can.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the council? Seeing none, I just have a really brief question. Do we know what seat the gentleman's being appointed to? Because there's several seats that are reserved for particular agencies, and then there are some that are just open mayoral appointments.
One moment, please.
Or perhaps the gentleman knows.
I believe it is the alternate role, if that
So
helps.
the letter from the mayor dated October 3rd says, I appoint Vincent Calcazola of 95 Bench Street as an alternate member of the Historic Commission. Unexpired term until October 2016.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Are there any further questions from members of the council? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the confirmation.
On approving the confirmation, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst, absent. Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The appointment is confirmed. Congratulations, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call item 5.
Item 5 is an FY24 Springfield Library Foundation Trust and Endowments Grant. No match required in the amount of $180,000.
Director Fogarty.
Yes.
Good evening. This funding is from the Springfield Library Foundation, which manages our trusts and endowments. It's for $180,000 that will go towards library materials.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions on the grant? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance.
On acceptance of the grant, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown? Yes, Counselor Hurst. Absent, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Kern?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The grant is approved.
Thank
Madam
you.
Clerk, please let the record reflect that Counselor Brown has transitioned to join us in the chamber, and please call item 6.
Item 6 is an FY24 Shine Grant, no match required, in the amount of $80,733.
Director Federica.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. These are earmarked funds to serve as a supplement for the regular contract, and the funds would be used to cover whatever goods and services the regular contract does not provide for.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions on the grant? Seeing no questions, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance.
On acceptance of the grant, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown? Yes, Counselor Hurst. Absent, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The grant is accepted. Madam Clerk, please call item 7.
Item 7 is an FY24 DPW Recycling Dividend Program Grant, no match required, in the amount of $71,500.
Director Signoli.
Good evening, councilors. Chris Signoli, DPW Director. It is a $71,500 grant from the DEP. We receive this every year. It is for the services that we do for recycling and trash around the city. The $71,500 allows us to do replacement barrels for recycling and also allows us to hold our free household hazardous waste disposal days.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on acceptance.
On acceptance of the grant, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown? Yes, Counselor Hurst. Absent, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The grant is accepted.
Thank you,
Clerk.
councilors.
Thank you, Director Signoli. Madam Clerk, please call item 8.
Item 8 is an FY24 Library Services and Technology Grant, no match required, in the amount of $11,984.
This grant is under $50,000. Unless there are any questions from members of the council, we can approve it routinely. Seeing no further questions, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the order on accepting the grant.
On accepting the grant, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown? Yes, Counselor Hurst. Absent, Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The grant is accepted. Madam Clerk, please call item 9.
Item 9 is an order authorizing the Library Department to apply for a grant for the East Springfield Branch Library.
Director Fogarty.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. The Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners runs a construction grant program for public libraries about every 5 to 7 years. The last time we applied was in 2016 when we successfully got a grant to build a new East Forest Park branch library. The grants was announced last spring. We applied, submitted a letter of intent to the Mass Board of Library Commissioners to apply for the grant, which was accepted, and we were determined to be eligible. The grant is due in May of 2024. If we're funded, the grant will be awarded in September of 2024, and a planning and design phase will begin, which takes about 15 months to about January of 2025. At that point, we would then be coming back to City Council for appropriation of the funding to build the library. We have no idea what it's going to cost at this point. And we're looking at a renovation and addition to the branch. This order is, there are 2 orders required for a successful grant submission. And this one, pretty much you give us permission to apply for the grant and then to expend the funds if we're funded.
Thank you, Director. Are there any comments or questions from members of the council? Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Molly, for not just your comments, but also your efforts on this. As I indicated earlier during the Finance Committee meeting, this has been a project that the neighborhood's been working on for over a decade. The East Springfield Branch Library is something that we're very proud of, and it's an anchor to our community. It is requiring substantial improvements and maintenance. It's I think Molly indicated that it's probably the library that's received the least amount of overall capital upgrades over the course of the last few decades, and we're really excited to be a candidate for this funding through the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, and we're hopeful that we'll be successful in getting that funding source to transform this library. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Molly, for applying for these grants. Is there like a capital plan for the libraries overall to see which libraries fall in the pipeline?
Yes, we submit our requests to the Capital Planning Committee every year, the City Planning Committee, and so we have all our capital needs. The East Springfield branch is the only branch that hasn't been renovated. All the other branches have been made accessible over the past 20 years, have additions, brand new library for East Forest Park. So East Springfield is the only branch. It was built in 1931, opened to the public in 1932. And, obviously has been well maintained by the city. We have new roof and an accessible bathroom on the main level, but the building itself is not accessible. The ramp that goes into it does not meet code. And it's about 3,000 square feet, a little over 3,000 square feet on 2 levels. And the only level that we use for the public is about 2,200 square feet. And we're trying to provide children's services, teen services, adults, seniors, computer access, collections, and it just doesn't meet the needs of a 21st century library. And I know the residents of East Springfield have been, use the library. It's a very busy library, and we just can't provide the services that we're providing in the other branches. So this is our opportunity to make that happen.
Thank you, Molly. I think it's a great project. At first, I thought you had said that in addition to East Forest Park, and I'm like, oh, didn't they just build one? So I'm glad to hear that it's on East Springfield because the community is really deserving of a new library. So great job there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Are there any further questions or comments from members of the council? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on authorizing the director to apply for the grant.
On authorizing the director to apply for the grant, Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown? Yes, Councilor Hurst, absent. Councilor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call item 10.
Item 10 is a donation to the Police K-9 Unit.
Deputy Cafo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lindsay Hackett, Deputy CAFO, 80 Tamarack Drive in Springfield. This is a donation to the Police Department's K-9 unit. It's from a Springfield couple, Jan and Bernadette Peppel. It's $10,000. There was a Mass Live article published on October 8th highlighting the donation.
Thank you, Deputy. Are there any questions? Councilor Fenton?
I just want to thank Jan and Bernadette, who are great friends and neighbors of mine on Atwater Terrace, and for their generosity, not just for this K-9 unit, but also for their extremely generous gift last year to TJO for an X-ray room for K-9s as well. So thank you, Jan and Bernadette.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Are there any further questions or comments? Councilor Brown?
I think a lot of times in this era, we really don't have enough love for our police, and I think a lot of people don't understand that even with the K-9 unit, these are police officers. So I definitely thank the donation, and I think we really definitely need to support our police. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Are there any further questions or comments on the donation? Seeing no further questions, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on accepting the donation.
On accepting the donation, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst, absent. Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The donation is accepted. Please let the Bernadettes know they have the gratitude of the Springfield City Council. Let the record reflect that Councilor Davila has disconnected at 7:29 p.m. I will let us know if he rejoins. Madam Clerk, please call item 11.
Item 11 is a supplemental budget increase in state aid in the amount of $2,735,729.
Acting CAFO.
Thank you, Mr. President. Patrick Burns, 90 Clement Street, Springfield. It's a supplemental budget to increase the school department budget by $2,735,729. This is the final charter tuition reimbursement revenue number pursuant to Chapter 70 of the Ed Reform Act. These funds must be appropriated within the school budget to meet net school spending. In discussions with the school department, they've asked that we appropriate these funds in the reserve for contingency line item within their budget, and the school committee will transfer the funds out to various line items after a committee discussion.
Thank you, Mr. CAFO. Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that Councilor Davila has joined us in person. Are there any questions for the CAFO or comments from members of the council? Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Pat. I'm a little bit confused on, okay, so these funds are for charter school reimbursement?
Yes, this is a revenue line item that we receive as part of our cherry sheet every year. The number at the time when the budget was adopted did not include the final state budget number. The final state budget number for this line item was $24,585,862, and this represented an increase of $2,735,729 from what was adopted as part of the FY24 budget by the city.
So when the school department allocates it, because it's charter school revenue, does it go back to the charter schools, or they could use it for whatever they deem necessary?
Yes, this can be used for any net school spending eligible expense. It's not restricted to the charter schools.
Have they had any conversation about it at all, like maybe going to youth mental health services? Because I know that there has been a youth group that has been advocating for that service. Have they had any conversations at all about it yet?
Not that I'm
That you know-
aware of,
Not that you're aware of?
no. My understanding is this appropriation will go to the school committee and they'll decide on the line items through committee discussion, so that certainly might be something that comes up.
Okay. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Are there any further questions for the CAFO or comments from members of the council? Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I first joined the council, I asked about truancy officers and did they exist. When I was explained how it actually worked, it's a shambles. There are certain things that I would like to implement, even when it comes to our student athletes and the resources that they receive. So this is a large amount of money, and we're going to just give it away and we have no say of how it might not and how it might be used.
According to the Ed Reform Act, these funds are restricted and they're for the school committee to appropriate. So basically, it is out of our hands at this point pursuant to Chapter 70 of the Ed Reform Act.
And is that something, when it actually submitted, does it always have to be like that, or can it be edited where we might be able to have some input ourselves? Because there are certain things when it comes to even mental health and certain things that's really impactful to our children. I would love to know, is this something that we can be able to have a maybe help look over and allocate where we might see some weakness?
That would be a discussion with your colleagues on the school committee. I know in the past there was a joint city council school committee subcommittee. I don't know if that was to be resurrected, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I that definitely might have been before my time, but that sounds like something, because I'm sure there's input that they might have with us when it comes to certain services and support that they might need from us also. So that's something I think we definitely should look back into as far as being able to collaborate, especially when you're talking about such large funds as far as resources, just so we both can work together when it comes to us and when it's even them. But thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your work also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Are there any further questions for the CAFO or comments from members of the council? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to everybody. Good evening, Mr. Burns. It was a pleasure and a treat to see you, sir. Just have a quick question. I want to make sure that I understood you correctly. So this $2,735,000, it's for the school committee side?
Yes, this was the final number in the state budget. The original estimate was built on a smaller number based on the governor's budget. So these funds here do belong to the school department, and it's their responsibility to appropriate them as they see fit.
Right. And can you restate for us why is it that we're getting this welcome increase, actually?
Excuse me?
Can you restate for us why is it that we're getting this welcoming increase?
This was the final state budget. The governor's budget was that much less. That was probably through conference committee, how this was decided, would be my assumption, that they wanted to increase the funding for the cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth.
I understand. The reason I bring it up is because I have to agree with my colleague, Councilor Brown. This is indeed a large amount of money. And, God knows that the school department could use it. But as Councilor Brown stated, there's other parts of the city And I realize that it's allocated to the school committee side. But I remember here, and this conversation will come up soon enough, because we're fastly approaching the least favorite season for me. And no, it's not Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. It's that setting the property tax. Okay? It's the least favorite season for me. I hate that vote. And my good sir, if you could kindly remind his honor, the mayor, that in this very podium, he promised me that he was going to look for more possible tax relief for property tax. And I realize, again, this is tied to the school committee, but I bring that up because we need to start talking about that. Property tax coming up, setting the property factor, which in essence is the property tax. So I just did not want to bring that up as a side note. Of course, I'm going to vote in favor for this, but I just want to enter into the record that I'm expecting to hear something soon from his honor regarding property tax. Thank you, Mr. Burns, and as always, you're truly a gentleman and a scholar, and I thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Are there any further questions for the CAFO? Councilor Govan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I just want to agree with Councilor Brown and Councilor Whitfield regarding the communication between the City Council and the school committee. I appreciate you bringing up that. I guess that at one point there was a committee that did that. As a freshman here in the City Council, I always wondered why we didn't talk to the school committee. And that's something that I think is very important for us to do. And since we brought it up and since it's here, I think I agree with you. And it's something that we need to certainly look into. And thank you so much for telling me about it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Are there any further questions for the CAFO or comments from members? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the supplemental budget. 2/3 majority vote is required.
On approving the item, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst, absent. Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved. Madam Clerk, please call item 12.
Item 12 is also supplemental budget increase in state aid in the amount of $701,656.
Mr. Caffo?
Thank you, Mr. President. Similar to last order, this is an increase in our unrestricted government aid based on the final budget that was adopted by the state. The increase is $701,656. The appropriation order in front of you tonight asks for $500,000 of this to be appropriated within the Parks Forestry Division, and for $201,656,000 to be appropriated within the Law Department, Professional Services. There are representatives from both the Park Department and the Law Department here this evening, and they can answer any specific questions on how this appropriation will be spent in those respective departments.
Thank you, Mr. Caffo. Are there any questions from members of the council or comments? Councilor Whitfield?
Thank you. Yes, I would love to hear from both departments on what the funds would be used for the appropriations, please.
Director Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, councilors, for taking this item up so quickly for us. Again, Patrick Sullivan, a proud resident of our Vesta Street in Springfield, Mass. We've had excessive rain this past year, and that has accelerated the tree growth along our urban forest, as well as increasing the decay of our trees. We have received many, many requests from city residents. We're over 1,500 requests just for tree trimming, and we have equally over 200 removals that we need to do along our street trees. So this would be very important to get this work done this fall prior to the snow and ice season, where we could have additional power outages and so forth. So for the protection of our residents, we recommended through the mayor that we appropriate these funds so we can ensure that our residents have a safe winter season, especially when it's heating season. That's the most important time of the year to make sure that we don't have power outages. So we look forward to this money being appropriated, and we're ready to implement the work immediately.
Thank you, Pat. Don't leave for a minute. I'm glad that you said that about the trees, and I just got a call today about a tree in someone's yard. I think it's the backyard, but the tree is wrapping around the power line, and Comcast said that they could not remove the tree from the power line. Is that something that the forestry department would do?
So what we'll do, Counselor, send me that address, and we'll work with the different utilities. If there's power lines involved, we'll reach out to Eversource and get that accelerated on their end. But that, I know my grandmother lived on Moreland Street, and all those power lines ran behind those houses, so I know how that resident must feel. So we'll work with you on that gladly.
Okay.
We'll find
Thank
a solution
you.
for that resident.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to hear that these funds are being appropriated to that, because there are a lot of tree trimming issues, and I get those issues quite often, so thank you.
Yeah. And if along with Councilor Whitfield, if you start getting others, because with this news tonight, you might feel free to email me those, and we'll make sure they're on the list.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And is the Law Department represented this evening?
Mr. President, Kathy Brack, Deputy City Solicitor for the City of Springfield Law Department, 36 Court Street, Springfield, Mass. I'm here to just give a brief description of what the funds that we're hoping that the council will approve the transfer tonight for $201,656 to go to the Law Department's professional services account. And what that'll allow us to do is to continue to pay the 12 different outside counsel and law firms that are handling some very significant major litigation matters for the city. We have, as I said, we do have 12 contracts now with these attorneys. For example, one of the law firms, just in a 3-month period, the invoices are totaling $76,000. So we are quickly running out of money, and we are very grateful that the council would approve this tonight. The money will not only go to the law firms, but will also go to pay for expert witnesses and consultants, transcripts for depositions, stenographers, transcripts, sheriff's fees, and a whole host of other expenses that the litigation costs. While we do have a very talented group of litigation attorneys on our staff, we just don't have, because of the really serious nature of some of these cases that have been kind of laying a little bit quiet for years, but are now really ramping up as we get closer to a potential trial. We really need, it's all hands on deck, and we just don't have the staff to handle all of the cases that we have, and that's why we do have to go out for outside help. And a lot of these firms are just, very, very experienced trial lawyers in the federal court and the state court, involving civil rights matters and very, very complicated litigation. So that is why we are coming today to ask you for approval of the supplemental appropriation. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yes, I still have more questions.
Sure.
Are the lawyers hired for like certain topics? I heard you say civil rights. Are they police misconduct? Are they internal civil rights claims? Just high-level overview on some of the topics that we are hiring these very expensive lawyers for.
Sure. So 2 of the major cases that some of these lawyers are handling right now, one of them is a not sure what you'd call it, because I'm sorry, I'm not a litigator, but a person that wound up having a very serious medical condition after they were transferred out of the Springfield Police Department lockup and was sent over to the Sheriff's Department. A few days later, they wound up dying and in the hospital. That is the Linsenmeyer case. And then we also have a wrongful conviction case of a gentleman by the name of George Peratt. He was convicted 35 years ago, and he has brought a wrongful conviction case against the city. We also have a personnel-related matter involving some individuals from the fire department. And we have other employment-related matters from various departments in the city. So it pretty much breaks down between the police department, fire department, and then some of the other city departments that might have some employment-related claims. But the two big ones are the Linsenmeyer case and the Peratt case.
Thank you, Kathy. And I just want to go on record and say that I've heard some of the employment matters that are trickling into litigation, and probably will be having some more. But I think that is an internal problem, and I don't really feel that the taxpayer should be on the line for whatever's happening internally in City Hall or at the fire department. However, I do know that it's our fiduciary responsibility to limit the amount of claims that we have to pay out as a city. That's probably the only reason that I will approve this appropriation, because we don't want more of a burden on the residents of the city of Springfield to pay more. And I guess if these are the top-notch lawyers that we need, then we have to pay this amount in this appropriation. However, I think that more needs to be done in the form of training, maybe some conversations, maybe some employee resource groups formed to mitigate some of these personnel claims that are coming about in the city of Springfield. So I'm going to definitely approve both of these appropriations because they're needed desperately to limit what the residents of the city of Springfield may have to pay if we don't have these top-notch lawyers. And because I definitely know for a fact that we need some tree trimming in the city of Springfield. So I did want to go on the record and say that, but more needs to be done internally in the city of Springfield to limit these type of employment claims from even coming about. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Madam Clerk, can you please recognize Councilor Hurst?
Councilor Hurst.
Present.
Thank you. Councilor Hurst is participating remotely. Councilor Walsh on the order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And Kathy, thank you for your work in these issues. I'm wondering, will these funds allow you to hire for someone within the department?
These funds are for professional services, which is basically our budget is broken down into personal services, which are, employees, et cetera, and then other than personal services. So this line item is in the other than personal services. So it's not for staff, not employees. We have struggled, I think you heard me say this in the Finance Committee meeting, we've struggled over the years to try to recruit really experienced litigators to come and work for with us in our litigation department. We have some fantastic lawyers in litigation, we just don't have enough. But it's sometimes it is difficult to recruit them because they can make so much more money in private practice. And so that's part of it. But we're always looking, always. So if, we just recently hired another attorney in our litigation division, but I don't know the person. I don't know how much experience they have, but some of these, law firms have been working on these cases for quite a long time, and they're going to hopefully bring it across the finish line for us.
Well, I hope so too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Walsh. Are there any further questions? Counselor Brown?
Yes, I had a couple quick questions. As far as this, for the legal department, now when you say the other, is the other, you said it can be used for lawyers, correct?
I'm sorry, Counselor, I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking. When I said other than personal services,
With the actual disbursement of these funds, can we use it, can we use it to, you said we might be able to use it to pay lawyers? Is that where I'm what you said? Am I correct?
oh, yeah, lawyers that are not employees of the city, yes. From
Okay.
outside law firms. We have, right at this time, Counselor, we have at least 12 contracts with outside lawyers or outside law firms that are handling litigation matters for the city. And those contracts, we don't have enough money to fully fund them. I don't know if you were there when I mentioned that just one of the law firms that's handling one of the big cases, within 3 months, their bills have totaled $76,000 getting ready for trial. So we just don't have the money in our account to continue to pay it, which is why this transfer would be so significant in assisting us in getting ready for those cases.
Well, the reason why I ask is that there are certain times, as far as city council, we might need outside litigation. With those funds, I know some of my colleagues have asked that. Can we have outside litigation? Say we want it in one particular moment to say, hey, we want to use our own lawyer. Would those funds be able to be accessed from the city council to do so?
I'm not probably in the best position to answer that question, Counselor, because the law firms that we have currently under contract are defending the city against lawsuits that have been brought against the city. So that is the context of what this transfer is for. It's not for things that might come up in the future. These are actually concrete work that's being done now by outside lawyers, and the bills are coming in, and we're just trying to figure out how to pay them.
And I understand that, but I know as far as the city council, we can forecast that we might want to need legal representation maybe 2 or 3 times. We might not really need it that many times, but I'm just curious, are we able to maybe use those resources? But maybe it's something we should look into in the future. Also, I have something with Pat.
Yes, Counselor.
Yeah, I was just curious. I know in my area, it just seems not a lot of money. Why so little? Is it? Can you get more? Do you need more support?
No, well, we're working hard with Eversource to have them basically own the removals that are in power lines. So that saves the city. I think they just did about 80,000 in removals. So any time where we can get assistance or put that work towards the entity that we feel has some responsibility to that work to save the taxpayer money, we do. Our forester has done a great job in getting some additional grants and so forth. You added 2 additional people in the prior year budget. We are looking at making a recommendation going forward for a 3rd crew. So I think we're giving you an honest number as of today that should get us through this current fiscal year for emergencies. If we find that different, or if we have a bad winter, we might be back in the spring. But as always, we will keep you updated. And we know there's other departments that need assistance, so we're not trying to take more money than what we need for the current issue that we're dealing with.
Okay, and once again, I always want to thank you for the work that you've done in my district. the brand-new parks, all the parks, your attention over in Amore Village, around the area. I really commend you for the work that you do. You're always A+. I do believe people don't realize what you do, and I believe you need more support from us and the city, because a lot of people don't understand how much everyday life that you definitely affect when it comes to the park and the upkeep of the city. So I definitely want to commend you for the work that you do.
Thank you, Councilor. And Mr. President, would you mind me sharing quickly with the council our interaction with the law department on a similar where we had to use outside counsel, or would you want that to be told?
Let's stay on the topic of the
Very good.
supplemental budget, and certainly we can
Very good.
entertain that
Thank you,
discussion at a
councilors.
later date. Thank you. Are there any further questions from members of the council or deliberation? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a question for the deputy attorney online.
Go ahead, Councilor Davila.
Thank you, sir. I just want to make sure, so $701,000, and that's going to be mainly to pay law firms, is that correct? Outside counsel?
So, Councilor Dava, good evening. $500,000 is going to the Park Department Forestry Division, and the remainder, which is $201,656, that is the amount that would be going to the Law Department Professional Services account to pay for these, specialized law firms, attorneys, expert witnesses, transcripts, depositions, things of that nature.
So that's for work that's already been done, correct?
Well, it's a continuing, these law firms are under contract preparing these cases for trial, and it's, it's an ongoing process. But yes, it's for bills that are coming in now and bills coming into for the future on these very specific litigation matters.
Right, I understand. And as I've always say, Attorney Bragg, the law department, it's a department that, the way I look at it, it stops the bleed, because we could lose a lot of money if things are not properly legally done. And so the law department is one of the critical departments, in my opinion, of the city. Attorney Bragg, when you get a chance, if you could be kind enough, will you send us a list of the people that these $200,000 are going to be going towards the law firms?
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah, because I realize that we are approving this money to law firms, but who are they? So I would appreciate if you can send that to us so that we can be as transparent as humanly possible. All right, thank you, Ms. Attorney Bragg. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Is there any further deliberation amongst members of the council? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of the supplemental budget. 2/3 majority vote is required.
On approval of the item, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Abstain.
Abstain, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call item 13.
Item 13 is an appropriation order for East Springfield Branch Library Construction Project in the amount of $150,000.
Director Fogarty,
Yes, thank you, President.
welcome back.
This is the second order that's required for cities and towns that are applying for this grant. We have to appropriate $150,000 towards the planning and design phase. The order has to be done in fiscal '24 because the grant is due in fiscal '24, but the funds won't be expended until fiscal '25, and they would come out of the capital projects fund.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, Without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on authorizing the appropriation.
On authorizing the appropriation, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call item 14.
Item 14 is for bills of prior year, various departments in the amount of $8,125.
Deputy Caffo.
Thank you, Mr. President. This order is to authorize funding to pay 2 bills of prior year totaling $8,125. The first is for the Elections Department, and the second is for the IT Department.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Are there any questions prior to our vote? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on authorizing the bills of prior year.
On authorizing the item, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved. Madam Clerk, please call item 15.
Item 15 is for a study for the creation of a historic district.
Councilor Edwards.
As I said in my report to committee, the administration is asked that we, as a committee of the whole, request that the application for the creation of a historic district at the former municipal hospital be sent back and the process be started again.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Are there any questions from members of the council? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to ask if we can get some light as to why it needs to go back to start from the beginning.
Councilor Edwards.
There was questions about the process. One of the laws regarding the creation of these districts requires that there be an independent study. There was a question as to the veracity of an independent study. There is those who believe that it was done properly. There was people on the other side in the part of the administration that believed that it was not done properly. The cleanest way to manage and handle this particular situation is for us to start the process all over again. It will not cause any harm to the building, as the building is not scheduled for to be torn down. And if we do it this way, the city and the administration is now on notice that they need to do some housekeeping to make sure that this doesn't happen again. This will not impact any of the creation of historic districts that have already been done, but it will put us all on a very even and clean slate of moving forward in future creation of these districts. The conversation is strictly about the historic part of this site, has nothing to do with Vibra Hospital or the 17 acres in which the hospital exists on. This is strictly on the creation of that one historic district as a single building.
Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards, for that explanation. Mr. President, do we have anybody from the city side?
Attorney Shea is present. He's been representing the legal department relative to their concerns.
Okay, Attorney Shea, if you could, sir, be so kind. Thank you, sir. So I just have some questions on this particular issue. I think that Councilor Edwards is right, in which we need to. This is not about Vibra. This is about the creation of the historic district, and so if I understand correctly, we're asking this to be sent back for the study to be redone, basically, right? And who's going to do the study? What the timeline is going to be?
Who's going to do the study?
Yeah.
Well,
And
the
what is
historic,
do we have a timeline?
the Historic Commission will reach out and find an agency that does that and hire them to do the study. Is that your question?
Right, but so are we going to do an RFP or what are we doing? I'm just trying, are we going to open the phone book and find somebody, or are we going to put an RFP, or how are we getting this agency? And who are they? Do we know?
Well, there are people that will do that study, just like the Historic Society have found people to do it. There's people that will do that study, if that's what you're asking me. I don't know who they are.
Okay.
And then the city will have funds to pay, but the commission can get a budget item from the planning department to pay for it, if that's your question.
Okay. And what about a timeline? Is there a timeline in mind, or is this?
I don't have an idea how long it takes, but I would imagine that it's something that doesn't take an extended period of time. But I couldn't tell you, is it 2 weeks or 2 months? I can't answer that.
Right. Attorney Chair, please forgive me because I'm not an expert on historic matters, but I'm trying to understand. The reason that we send this back is because to have a clear, I'm going to say clear page starting this. Is there, if a study was done, I believe it was approved by the Historical Commission, and please correct me if I'm mistaken.
Okay, let me outline what I think the issue is, okay? There was a study done by the Springfield Historical Society to determine, from their point of view, if this property could be made into a historic district. And that plan was then presented to the Springfield Historic Commission, and they adopted that plan and went forward to create a district. The problem is that in order to create a historic district, the city has to comply with Chapter 40C, Section 3. Mm-hmm. And that section states that prior to the establishment of a historic district in a city or a town, an investigation and report on the historical and architectural significance of the buildings must be done by the Historic Commission. And the statute says that the proposed historic district or district shall be made by the Historic District Study Committee or by the Historic District Commission as provided for in this section. So the statute requires that the Historic Commission do its own independent study. What occurred in this case is that the commission took the testimony from an applicant that was advocating to have a historic district made and presented to the Historic Commission a study that they had done. So it was not a study done independently as the statute required by the Historic Commission in compliance with Chapter 40C, Section 3, okay? And it isn't just my opinion on that.
Right.
There's 2 Massachusetts cases that I can refer to that.
Councilor Shea, if I may interrupt you briefly, because I like to keep my ducks in a row here. So when you said the historical commission, you're talking about our local historical commission, correct? When you say historical commission, you're talking about the Springfield Historical Commission.
Springfield Historic Commission.
So they need to do their own study.
Correct.
Commission their own study.
Yes.
But
they have to hire someone and do a study that's hired and paid for by them.
Okay, go ahead, proceed.
Okay?
Yeah, so, go ahead. All right. All right. So let me follow up on that question then. So, again, so that I fully understand. But wouldn't you argue that by them, because I believe they took the report from this, I'm going to say word they use, advocate, isn't that in fact accepting the report?
They are not able to use the report to justify the formation of a historic district based on something provided for by an organization that's advocating for that. That'd be like going into court. Let me give you an example.
Please.
Your gentleman goes into court, he's accused of DUI. The attorney for the state says, gee, we need a breathalyzer test, sir. They look around, they don't have one. He says, anybody got one? The defendant says, yeah, I got one. I had one done here, use mine. They look at it, and it's also, he's
Well, shame
he's
on the
not
court for
under
doing
the
that.
influence. You can't take the testimony from someone advocating for something and give it to the body that's supposed to do an independent study. That's the problem that we're in.
I understand, but I understand what you're saying, and that's a very candid, good example you're giving, sir. But I am a little concerned that it was adopted, it was accepted, as I understand it initially by the Historical Commission. And I agree we need to be transparent, we need to have to clear page. But it would seem to me that the Historical Commission in and of itself needs to have some sort of, I'm going to use the word re-education. Because, you know, in everything you have said, Attorney Shea, with all your respect, you have referred to the so-called advocate or the party, but it seems to me the Historical Commission needs to, you know, get their act together here.
The problem is that the case law does not support that.
No,
There's
I
got to be an
understand, but I
independent
also-
study done.
I understand that, my good sir, but
Okay.
also, you know, I got to point out,
Right.
I would like to think that the Historical Commission will know better, and, you know, I'm sorry, I have to say, are we appointing competent, I'm not going to use the word competent, my apologies. I'm going to use what's the word I can use in this case? People that are truly familiar with what a historical component, historical district is composed of, and because I'm asking the questions, I'm trying to learn so I can vote appropriately here, and so I thank you for your feedback on this issue. I would urge the Historical Commission to get their ducks in a row here, you know, because again, this could end up in court, this could cost a lot of money, and so I understand that's what you guys are suggesting, and you could argue, well, that's why we're doing this, but I don't know, I'm a little suspect on suspect is not the right word, my apologies. I'm a little confused to this situation that we are here on, and so, and you know, in the vacuum, I have learned when there's a vacuum, the vacuum is going to be filled with something.
Okay.
And so,
I understand what you're saying,
so-
Counselor. Yeah, I understand what you're wrestling with, but the problem is if we were to go forward and if we were to do that and not make this change, it would open the door for someone that wanted to challenge it, and then we'd have wasted a lot of time. This way, we're going to get a clean bill of health. It isn't going to take that long, and we'll be done with it, and there'll be no legal challenges should if anyone ever want to raise one. Okay?
No, I understand. Did you? So they cannot knock down that building in the meantime. That building is protected. That building is going to stand while the new study is done, and hopefully with the historic creation, this building is going to be protected. I'm sorry, is that a yes?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Okay?
Attorney Shea, sir, you are a scholar and a gentleman. I thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Counselor, I'm going to go to Counselor Walsh and then to Counselor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I think it's a misrepresentation to suggest that these parties did not act in good faith. You know, this is an unusual situation. Usually when we create a historic district, people come in, they make a presentation, we vote on it. This has certainly gotten very complicated. It's not the first time it's for us. There's been a lot of discussion on both sides, but I think people acted in good faith, and I think it's really a shame that this is where we are, that we have to start over with this process that we've been talking about well over a year. To me, this is an absolutely new twist in the creation of a historic district, and I think it throws the people that are for it, I think it throws them a curve that they didn't expect, and I really will under protest vote for it because I want this to go forward, but they did not act in bad faith, and I don't think we should give that impression.
Thank you, Counselor Walsh. Counselor Click Bruce.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to echo what my colleagues just said, Counselor Davila and also Counselor Walsh. But I have a question for Attorney Shea, because he said something that kind of caught me. I just want to clarify, make sure I had it heard correctly, I should say. I guess you mentioned when you were talking to Councilor Davila that the city will put in a line item to pay for the study, but then later you mentioned that the group, the historical group, will have to pay for their own study. Did I hear that correctly, or did I hear that wrong?
Well, if the, you want to?
We'll go ahead.
If I understand, the Springfield Historic Commission, years ago, used to have a budget line to take care of these types of items. I think under the Control Commission, they just eliminated that, and should expenses come up that are incurred by the commission, then I believe it's the Planning Department provides them the funds to do it. If that answered the question. See, this was, I don't know if it was ever followed this way. In fairness to, I think, Councilor Walsh, we went along as a system, the city, probably doing what was done as a matter of fact. And it never got challenged. Almost none of the historic commission districts get challenged. This one got challenged by the owner of the property, which exposed the issue when we looked into it at the law department. So that's why all of a sudden we have this, okay?
So I guess
that's what brought it. Had there been no chance, we'd have gone right along. So we're just trying to make it dot the I's and cross the T's, okay?
I guess we're saying the system was flawed prior to this, and then having somebody challenge it.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What did you?
Councilor, can you restate it?
I actually conclude my comments. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Click Bruce. Councilor Hurst, and I know there are many councilors that want to be heard on this. I'm going in the order in which I see councilors. Councilor Hurst.
Thank you. Attorney Shea, I guess my question is for you, and I echo the sentiments of Councilor Click. The system certainly had to have been flawed if we're just now flagging this now. And I guess my question to you, Attorney Shea, is what is going to be the impact to every other historic district that was approved without an independent study? Have we thought about that?
Is the question what would happen to the districts we've approved?
Yeah, without the independent study, because I imagine that we've approved a number of them without an independent study.
We have, and
right?
you know, in fairness, I don't know if every single one was done the old-fashioned way, but I would say that they're in place. There's a couple that did go to court. There's one, a Springfield case with the Springfield Library Commission, and that one has been to court. It wasn't challenged on this issue. It was something else. But the court discussed this issue, and they just mentioned how it should be done. But there's a statute of limitations would have run on all these by now, and there's no challenge to them from what's been going on. So I would say that those are safe, but we certainly, going forward, don't want to continue the process.
I'm not so sure that folks were privy to the law, Attorney Shea. So of course they weren't challenged, right? I mean, if folks were not privy to the law, I'd imagine that they wouldn't have challenged them. I mean, I'm assuming that they were assuming that this is the practice, and so, you know, folks may not have known that they were aggrieved. But now that, you know, folks have finally done the research and there's this new practice in place, I think it still begs the question of what recent historic districts that we've approved that may run into this issue moving forward. Go ahead.
Counsel, I can't establish and go back and say that they were all done that way, okay? So I don't know if that is going to be an issue, but they have been in place for some time, and I would say that there was going to be a challenge, that the statute to challenge it would have gone by. But I certainly think in this case, where we know that the issue occurs, that we should correct it. And if the parties that in the ones in the past didn't feel to challenge that when they could have challenged it and they didn't, I would say that that would cover the city also.
What's the statute of limitations, since you reference it?
I'm sorry?
And
I'm sorry, what was
I
that,
said,
Counselor?
what's the statute of limitations on this, on a challenge?
I
I mean, since we're assuming, do you know that?
not off the top of my head do I know what that statute is, Counselor.
Okay.
Okay?
So I don't.
But
imagine
I'm,
you
you know,
don't
most statutes run 7 years and maybe beyond that, so I think most of them would come under that. And again, they weren't challenged, and the people at the time didn't challenge it, so it didn't come up. This is a different one where we got challenged on it.
I hear what you're saying, Attorney Shea, but I would imagine that folks probably didn't know that they can challenge, or that they could have challenged. And now that folks know that they can challenge, it would seem to me that any historic districts that we've approved over the last 7 years, if you indeed are saying that the statute of limitations is 7 years, would have the ability to challenge. And I'm sure we've approved some historic districts in that time. And so now that they know that there, that there was some case law out there that might work in their favor, maybe they would challenge that as well. I just don't know. So anyhow, I think you've answered my questions. Just seems like we ought to be prepared in the event that we do, in the event that folks do start the challenge as a result of this new practice that we're doing now. And I also would imagine, and maybe you can answer this question, that we're going to do this from this point forward. Is that the recommendation from the law department?
Well, that would be the recommendation, and that would have us follow the statute, okay? But going back to your other argument, I don't want to reopen the can of worms you just closed, but even if those had been done outside the statute, that would not excuse us today to continue with the old system and not apply the statute to this one. I understand what you were raising, but, you know,
I concur with that logic. So I get it, and I do think, I get that we're doing the right thing. I just think it's a little interesting and curious as to why it is that we're doing the right thing now, and how this ultimately came about. Curious. So anyhow, thank you. That concludes my remarks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst, and Attorney Shea, if you could please leave the can opener up here on your way back to your seat. Press Club Roast is coming up, folks, later this month. Councilor Govan, followed by Councilor Perez.
Thank you, Mr. President. So it sounds like this is one of the decisions that was challenged because there was someone opposing the development of the historic district there. So I just want to say that, you know, the Springfield Historic Commission, I believe, is a group of volunteers who have been doing this work for many years. And I just want to commend them for continuing to keep Springfield historic as much as possible. So I understand what happened here because I was at the meeting that Councilor Edwards had, and I understood that, I guess, the report that was done was just given to them instead of being given to some other authority or whatever. So I think that we should definitely approve this study immediately so that they can have the study done properly, so that we don't run into any other issues going forward. But again, I just want to thank the Historic Commission for being in operation and for continuing to do the work that they've been doing as volunteers in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Councilor Perez.
Yes, I just want to say for the record, I have to echo what my colleague Zaira Govan has stipulated. I think the concern was when it was reflected in the committee that we were in violation of Chapter 46, Section 3. When it comes to independent study, it's not about the commission, the Historic Commission. They have been doing a wonderful job, by reflecting that we have not gone through the process. It would concern us, as me being part of the committee, that we wanted to reflect it with no recommendation back to the full board. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Are there any further questions, Councilor Davila?
Yes, Mr. President, if I may. Attorney Shea, just a quick question. Is she still here?
Yes, Attorney Shea.
Attorney Shea, just two quick questions. This is worded as study for the creation of a historic district.
Yes.
So we are ordering the commission to do the study.
Yes, you're asking the commission to do it. Someone
Are we
has to
asking
ask
or are
them.
we ordering?
Someone has to ask the commission, and we felt it better if the city council requested it than having the organization that asked it before, which would want it done also. So we're just simply asking them to do it. They wouldn't go out and do it on their own.
Attorney, I understand that. I just want to, because I have learned throughout my life that words have meaning. Are we asking or are we ordering them?
We are asking.
We are not asking.
Well, basically, it's an order from the city council, so they're going
So
to do it. I
ordering
guess
them.
you can interpret that as however way you want, but they're going to have to do it one way or the other, yes.
I'm not sure I understood you. So if we pass this today, they have to do the study.
Yes, yes, they do.
So that
Yes,
we order them to
it's
do
not something that they could ignore because the city council is basically ordering them to do the
Okay,
study.
I understand.
Okay?
Just to be clear.
And then a private citizen could go in and ask, and I suppose, in theory, they could say no, but this is not that case. This is a case where they are going to have to do what the city council orders if you pass this tonight.
Very well. And so just going back to the who's going to do the study, do they get to choose who does the study, or does this go through an RFP process, or does this fall within the uniqueness of a?
I would imagine that they would have to, if they could, get it. I think the requirement is 3 bids. I think that's the requirement. They would have to at least try to get 3 bids if there were 3 companies available. Yeah.
Right, so is this going to go through an RFP?
Right.
If you know, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
do my due diligence, attorney.
I don't know.
It's a threshold.
If I-
Depending on the amount of the, may I, Mr. President?
Without objection, sir.
You want me
No.
to sit over there? I'll stay.
We have order in the chamber. Councilor Davila, I think Councilor Edwards may have an answer to your
Without objection, sir.
question, and I do not have an objection to him voicing that question, and then we can bring Attorney Shea back up and we'll continue the debate. I see you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Edwards.
My apologies, but I'm not an expert on procurement, but I believe depending on the amount of money required is the triggers and whether or not you have to have the 3 bids. So if somebody was doing this for $10 or $15, you wouldn't have to have 3 bids. But I don't know what the threshold is, so I hope that kind of helps a little bit.
Okay. So assuming that, thank you, Councilor Edwards. So, Attorney Shea, my apologies, sir. I'm just doing my due diligence. That's all, sir. So if we meet whatever the threshold might be, if we meet it, who issues the study? Who will commission the study? Does the Historical Commission say do it? Does it go through the RFP? Do you know? You don't know?
The Historic Commission would order it done by some company, and they would do it. That would be it. It's in their hands, okay? The whole thing is in their hands. It's not going to some other city department.
Okay, thank you, Attorney. Thank
Okay?
you very much. Thank
All
you.
right.
Boy. Thank you, sir. No more questions.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm completely confused. I don't know what's going on because we're talking about a procurement threshold that will have to follow 30B no matter what department is doing it. I'm just confused to the answer of the threshold. And then I'm confused as to what is this study going to tell us? I don't know if Councilor Edwards can answer this, but okay, we missed something. Someone challenged it. What is this study going to tell us when it's done?
Councilor Edwards.
I may be wrong in terms of the procurement. I'm not an expert, and as I started with, I apologize because I'm not an expert on that part of it. But what the City Council is doing is asking the Historic Commission or ordering the Historic Commission to do a study. Once that order, they receive that order, they would either do an RFP or they'll reach out to any known agency or individual who is not a part of that commission to do the study. That study would be brought back to them, and they would start the process of voting on that study as the evidence for determination, and then send it off to the state, and it would be the same process that where has brought us to where we are to here. There's no bad faith on anybody's part through this process. It was just the way things had always been done, and now that this has been challenged, or there was a question of a challenge, people started to look at it a little more in depth. There was an attorney in the room. There was the historic commission members who do a wonderful job and had been doing the same all along. So it's not necessarily that somebody had done something nefarious in the process. It's just a flaw was corrected or noticed, and now we're trying to do it the right way, to the point of what the study would ask. For a building to be designated as a historic property, it has to be more than just the fact that it is old. There has to be some type of historic significance, and that is what the study would talk about. I believe there was some questions last week when we were doing CPA, or a few weeks ago we did the CPA over a church, and what constituted it being historic was not the fact it was a church, but the stained glass would have to have some type of historic significance. So that's what the study would say, to say that the architecture of the exterior of the building may qualify, there may be interior things, or it may not qualify because the outside by itself may not be enough to qualify it for it. But that's what the study will say. It will look at the interior, the exterior of the building, the history of the building, its uses and everything, and that would be all encompassing in that report that would come back to the commission, and the commission would then vote on it.
Thank you. Now that clarified it so much for me. I appreciate that, Councilor Edwards, because I'm sorry I missed the meeting and I missed your report out in the beginning of the city council meeting. Now, as far as procurement goes, there's a law on the books also that says if there's a threshold, then we would have to do an RFP process. And because these funds go to the Historic Commission, does that negate the city law, even though the city is going to be paying for this study? Like, I'm just trying to figure all this out. Is there anyone here from finance or the procurement department that can answer these questions?
Madam, Councilor Whitfield, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk. Councilor Whitfield, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I wasn't placing blame on anybody. I'm just trying to understand this. I think that the Historic Commission always acts in good faith, and they do a wonderful job. So that was never part of the question that I asked. I'm not placing blame on anybody. I'm trying to understand the process, but I really want to understand the procurement process because I think that's important, how these dollars are going to be spent. It's our fiduciary responsibility to know, not to guess what the threshold is, not to guess if it has to go through the RFP process. It's our fiduciary responsibility to understand the process. So is there anyone here that can explain it?
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. I do not see any members of the finance team in the chamber at this time. I do want to just make councilors aware that during the committee meeting that preceded this matter, it was committed by the Director of Economic Development that his department, which does provide technical assistance to the Historic Commission, would allow for it to come out of their budget. I will also say that we know historically the city has had an existing contract with, for example, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission to provide additional assistance to them on matters such as this. But certainly, I agree, the question of the direct process of procurement and thresholds should be left to the procurement department. And perhaps other councilors may want to speak to it, but I did want to provide that process comment as it may be helpful.
It is helpful, but it still doesn't answer the question, Mr. President. Do we have to go through RFP? What is the process? Like, I understand that they may have it in their budget. Tim Sheehan may have it in his budget. So does that mean if it's over 30,000 or 29,999 that it doesn't have to go to procurement because it's already in their budget? Like, I'm just not understanding that piece. And for me, I can't move forward with this without that information because I want to make sure that the process is fair and equitable because sometimes things pass, and I'm not blaming anything. I'm not saying this is what the Historic Commission does, but sometimes things pass through the gates without any understanding from us, without understanding what's going on, And it's not always fair and it's not always equitable, and it's our fiduciary responsibility to understand how money is being spent in the city of Springfield. So for me, without understanding that, I can't vote yes for this.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. I don't disagree with you, but the extent of the information that I possess to provide to you this evening has been exhausted at this time. Do you wish to proceed further with the floor? There are several other councilors in the queue, but you have the floor at this time.
Well, I'll hear what others have to say, and then I'll come back if I need to. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. Just to reiterate what Chief Development Officer Tim Sheehan said at the meeting, that he wanted the study to be done, the study that's being recommended here, and he did have the money in the budget, as President Letterman just mentioned, that he had the money in the budget. So it seemed like to me, with his approval and with the money there, that it seemed like we should go forward and do it in the right way, as this order mentions. We've had enough discussion on that probably already. And then when he said he had the money, I thought it was, for me, I was ready to go forward with it. The issue of, RFPs and stuff, I don't recall that coming up at the meeting, so I can't speak to that.
No.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question for Attorney Shea. I'm just curious, just guesstimating, do we know how long this might take an individual to get this study done? Just like maybe a guesstimation, does it take, I don't know, a month, a year, 6 months? Do we have?
I wouldn't know how long one of these studies takes. I think the year is out of line. I don't think it's anywhere near that, but I couldn't tell you. I'm not privy to how long something like that would take.
Because why I asked also, so say, could it take a couple days based on, and I'm just saying, really based on what it actually is. If I had to go and do a study, I can already, if there's already a study done and my job is to go and do a study, I'm going to use that historical data and do a little research based on that if there's something, in place. So it probably wouldn't take me too long to do the study. How do you think it could be done in a few days?
Counsel, I wouldn't know. I can't answer that and give you an answer that then you can rely on. I mean, it's not my jurisdiction, but I can.
So, because I'm curious as far as if it could be done tomorrow, could we just hold off, let them get it, and then now revisit it with it done with the actual paperwork in the folder?
Again, I don't know. I know that they're going to do it ASAP, but I can't tell you, is that going to be a week or is it going to be 2 months? I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't have any resource to.
That's the only reason I asked also.
Okay.
And who is the firm? How did they find out?
How do they find out?
How did they find out that because this is tucked behind a lot. I mean, no one in the history ever found this out before. What law firm do they have?
It came up because the owner of the property challenged it through a letter to the law department. That's how it came up.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm saying, who does he use to get that information? Because no one in the history ever been able to get that information. I would just want to use maybe we should hire that person if they can. I mean, if they can do that.
What information are you talking about?
The actual improper submission, knowing where in the law that it's actually like you don't know that.
Well, that was me. I found that out.
Well,
I found that, I looked
okay,
in the
so you
law and
found
found
it?
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, I'm glad we have you. And I just wanted to ask, thank you, Attorney, that's all. And I just wanted to ask, is there any individuals from the historic district or representation from the historic district present?
Are you referring to the Historic Commission?
Commission.
There are not. Not currently.
We just appointed Benny.
That is true. Commissioner, the newest commissioner is present. And I commend him for staying through this item. Thank you, Councilor Brown. Does that conclude your remarks?
So you said there is no one?
No, I do not see any members currently of the Historic Commission other than the commissioner who was just approved earlier this evening.
Okay, because I was just curious how they felt about this, how it actually impacts them. I was just curious because do we know how they felt? Does anyone? They're okay with this?
Yeah.
I cannot speak to their intention, Councilor Brown. I'm not sure if another councilor may be able to.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
On the ordinance, Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think there's been a lot of good discussion on this. I only had one comment that was made that I wanted to respond to, which is that we're ordering the Historic Commission to do something here. I would, to the extent that individuals feel that that's what we're doing here tonight, I would contest that characterization. I don't think that this body has the jurisdiction to instruct the Historic Commission to do anything. We have jurisdiction over confirmation of appointments, but beyond that, they conduct their own business under the state statutes and under our city charter, and I'm in support of asking them to redo this study, and I hope and expect that they will, and they'll figure out all the things that we had questions about tonight, but I don't believe that we have the power to instruct them to do anything in regards to this matter, in the same way that we wouldn't have the ability to instruct them to create a historic district, or to approve the removal of some historic windows or a change of a slate roof. That's their jurisdiction, and I think it's our place to make this recommendation, but I don't see it as anything more than just a request that they proceed with this study. Thank you.
Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I promise, my good sir, that I will be brief. Just going to make some quick comments of what I have been able to deduct from this robust conversation. It seems to me that we all want to do the right thing. It seems to me that we all want to do the right thing, and I like the comments that our beloved attorney Ken Shea said a little while ago that even if things were not done properly before, there's no reason not to do it properly now, and we need to follow the process. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So, but I also, somebody, I can't remember who, made a comment that the Economic Development Department wants this study done. I am a little shocked that they're not here. I like to hear things straight from the horse's mouth. I would have loved them to be here so that we can question them. I would love the Historical Commission to be here as well. And just in case we have any questions for them, it seems like we do. I agree with Councilor Whitfield. I'm getting uncomfortable with this right now because I want to do the right thing. And I'm not exactly sure if we're doing the right thing, even Councilor Fenton's comments now, our beloved esteemed Councilor Fenton from Ward 2, we have a different opinion between what the law department is saying and what he's saying. So it seems to me that there's different opinion here. So I really want to move forward with this. I really don't want to send this to committee. I really don't want to hold this up as much anymore than we have to. And I hate to drag this on, but I think the appropriate thing to do, if we are all in agreement that we need to do this right, we need to know the exact information so that we know what we're voting on, because I feel like we're getting conflicted information. So correct me, Mr. President, if my motion is appropriate, but I will make a motion that we table this matter to the next meeting and that we request the Economic Department and the Historical Commission to be present for questioning so that we can put this baby to bed, sir.
Councilor Davila has made a motion to table the item. Is there a second? Motion was seconded by Councilor Whitfield. On the motion, Councilor Davila?
Yes, just to specify, and that we request the Historical Commission and the Economic Development, specifically Tim Sheehan, to be present to answer questions.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Your motion is to table. Your motion to table would not result in this ordinance coming back or this order coming back before the council at the next meeting. If you would like the ordinance, the order to automatically appear, you will need to make a motion to continue it to the next meeting.
To continue to this meeting, yes, sir.
Would you like to revise your motion?
Next regular meeting.
So your motion is to continue this to the next regular meeting.
Correct. Is that the appropriate?
That would be the appropriate motion for what you're wishing to do.
Okay, that's fine.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Whitfield has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilor Edwards?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The Planning and Economic Development Committee met on October 10th of this year. Mr. Sheehan, representing Planning and Economic Development. There was representatives in the room. Who was not in the room was Councilor Davila. He was not there. So the reality is that we've had all this discussion in that committee. You can read the record of the committee meeting. You can watch the video. All those questions were asked. Not necessarily, nobody got into the weeds about who was going to pay for it except to ask if the commission had funding to do that. We were assured in that meeting by the head of Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Tim Sheehan, that he had a line item and had the funds, and that the normal process for doing that was for the commission just to reach out to his office to get any of those type of supporting funds that they needed. So I hope that we could settle this issue. It's really not that complicated. All we're really asking this body to do tonight is for us to vote to ask or order the Historic Commission to start the process all over so that there is no questions at the end of the day or at the end of the process, that everything has been done, all T's have been crossed, all I's have been dotted, and everything has been done correctly. It's not that complicated.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Many hands raised in the queue.
My hands were raised for
Councilor
a while,
Whitfield, I'm
Mr.
coming to you.
President.
I'm coming to you, Councilor
Even
Whitfield.
before
I'm coming to every member who is seeking to be recognized. I am just asking members to be cognizant that we are on now Councilor Davila's motion. And Councilor Davila's motion is to continue this item to the next regular meeting. I'm going to go in order of the hands that I see raised in the queue for the online participants. Does anybody in person wish to be heard on the motion to continue before I proceed through that? Councilor Davila wishes to be heard on his own motion. So Councilor Davila, we will come to you, but I'm going to start with a virtual councilor, Councilor Whitfield, then we'll go virtual in person, virtual in person. Councilor Whitfield, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that. I actually appreciate Councilor Fenton for clarifying, because I thought this was something that we had to do, and it doesn't look like it's something that we have to do. But I also wanted to make a comment that we can't always go to the subcommittee meetings, and I think Councilor Edwards was the one that reminded me when I once was the finance chair, and I said, well, we discussed all this in finance. You know, obligations come up, folks work. We can't always make all the meetings, and sometimes don't have enough time to go back and review the meeting minutes. So with that said, from what I gather from this city council meeting, we do not have all the answers. Procurement wasn't answered. We don't know what Tim Sheehan, what bucket of money is coming from, how he plans on paying it. So it's just a lot of unanswered questions that were not even asked in the subcommittee meeting, because maybe I wasn't there or Councilor Davila wasn't there to ask the questions that are pertinent to us. So to say this has been discussed enough for one person doesn't mean it's been discussed for all of us. And we all have a responsibility to understand it for ourselves. So I think that we should respect the fact that sometimes life happens and we can't always show up to everything. And I just wanted to say that because we are a council of colleagues and we should be understanding. And that was actually something that was said to me once, and I've always kept that in the back of my mind. So I just wanted to reiterate that I don't think that we do have all the answers, or we wouldn't still be here on this topic trying to understand what's really going on. And so that's why I'm going to vote to support this motion, so we can get the answers for ourselves to be clear on how the process should work, what we missed over time. Can this particular incident caused further litigation? Like, we don't know any of that. We don't know any of those questions. So I think more discussion should be had, but I'm gonna go with however the body votes because that's what we have to do. But I will not support this particular order as it stands without more clarification. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Perez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't going to say anything, but since Councilor Edwards specifically mentioned my name, I will use my privilege to respond, sir, to say, Councilor Edwards, you're absolutely correct. I was not at that meeting. But, Councilor Edwards, I am at this meeting now, and I have questions. And if I have questions, I cannot vote for something. And I think you're being disingenuous, sir, by suggesting somehow I'm not doing my job as a city councilor. Let's go back and see how many of the councilors were not at a meeting, a committee that I'm not a member of. I go to plenty of other meetings that I'm not a member of and have questions and want to do the right thing. And I don't appreciate your disingenuous comments, sir. With that being said, I do think, sir, that we need to do the right thing. This is until the next meeting. If this was that important for the community development, the Historical Commission, they will be here. If this does not fail, if my motion fails, then I will have to join Councilor Whitfield in voting no in this order because I have, actually, we don't even know if it's an order because there's division as to whether or not this is an order or not, or if we are saying pretty please to the Historical Commission. So, those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Perez.
I just want to say that I'm lost right now, and I need some clarification. Were we supposed to be voting because we were in violation of Chapter 46, Section 3, based on the needed independent study? Meaning that regardless how we go with the financial, because we are in violation of Chapter 46, Section 3, it is required an independent study regardless of the finance. And I know there's many unanswered questions, but being part of the committee, it is required an independent study, meaning that we do have to put a process in place. But because of the nature of a violation, I'm inclined to vote in favor. It's not based on the finances, it's based on the violation that we have been committing for a long period of time before myself becoming a city council. So I think there's two aspects to this, is that we need regardless, we need that independent study. Are we voting that the independent study should go forward? And then I think it should come back to committee and discuss the other questions that has been asked about the financial part. But I have to address it to the lawyer, to the Attorney General. Is this a standard procedure that we need to vote for a learning process of any study that come before us as a city council based on Chapter 46, Section 3? I need to be unconfused about this matter, and someone needs to answer this question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Councilor Walsh.
Well, yeah, I'm curious to know what Attorney Shea's answer is to Councilor Perez.
Attorney Shea.
Or maybe I'll clarify it. I am under the impression that we're being asked to create the study for the creation of a historic district because of whoever, I don't want to say fault, but it wasn't done properly, and it has to be done properly. So there has to be a study to go forward to create the district. Is that correct?
That is correct. And let me just add that while there is a request here tonight from the council to request a study, any citizen could make the same request. So if the council were to follow through and vote on Councilor Davila's motion to table this and not go forward, a concerned citizen could approach the Historic Commission and say, listen, I'd like to have a study done on the feasibility of this property being put into a historic district. They could do that tomorrow or next week, and the commission could undertake that and go forward. So the action here tonight of stalling this off, all that's going to do really is drag this process out considerably, when, like I say, an average citizen wants to go in and ask for it tomorrow, they'll do it.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of dragging this out, because I don't really think there's a lot of people to be blamed. The people were just not aware that this was a step to the process, because as you said, didn't come forward because the owner brought it forward. Now we have to correct that mistake. There's a lot of interest in this historic district and what happens up there, so I don't think we should delay it any further. I'm going to vote to support the creation of the historic district tonight.
And with due respect, my question was not answered. So I asked Attorney Shea to answer the question, because my vote is very significant. We only voting for the independent study regardless of the financial, based on we have been in violation of Chapter 46, Section 3, and that's all the role I as a city council is taking tonight. That's why I wanted to have a clear answer about the matter, besides the other concerns that my colleague has brought forward. So, Attorney Shea, I want you to answer the question, because it's two aspects of this. This is a process that has been stabilized, clarified now, and this is the process that I, as a city council, need to continue, and this is for the purpose of following with the process and making this process stand. Is that the process that we need to have from now on? Please, could you answer the question? Thank you very much.
Yep. This is if you're asking me, do we have to follow going forward with the Historic Commission to follow Chapter 40C, Section 3, the answer to that question would be yes. Is that the question? Is that your question? I'm not...
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Shea. Thank you, Councilor Perez. Councilor Davila, on your motion.
Yeah, Mr. President, just to clarify some of the comments with Attorney Shea made, the intent of my motion is not to stall anything, is not to drag anything out. It's to ensure that we get the right information so that we can take the right vote. Right now, I feel we don't have the right vote, right information. I have a lot of questions. It's like the other councils have a lot of questions as well. So just to clarify, to put it in the record, my intent with this motion is not to drag anything out, sir, is to get to the due diligence for the people of the city of Springfield and get the right information from the people who are requesting this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. I intend to speak on the motion, for the record. And relative to that, I see that Councilor Whitfield has her hand up, and I'm going to come to Councilor Whitfield on the motion. Are there any other individuals who at this time intend to speak on the motion?
Yeah, just a point of information, how many votes are required for passage?
7. Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Whitfield on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to agree with Councilor Davila. While some people might have all the information that they need to make an informed decision and an informed vote, all of us do not. And so while some also may not think having the fiduciary responsibility is the responsibility of the city council, that's very important to me. I want to know if we can be sued for prior historic districts like Councilor Hurst brought up. I want to know, will this have to go through a procurement process to make sure that folks or organizations that may be interested in doing the study will have a fair and equitable opportunity to do so? Will it be posted? I have further questions because that's my role as a city council, to get all the questions that I have to make an informed decision for myself with regards to this order. While some may agree with that, some may think it's been dragged on, some may think we've been doing it long enough. If I don't have the questions that I need, it's going to be a no vote for me. And I'm just trying to get the answers that I need to make a responsible decision for the residents of the city of Springfield, and to also prevent litigation in the future. Unfair process is happening, and other implications that could happen as a result to what we haven't been doing all along. And so for me, it's my responsibility to get all the information that I need for myself to make an informed decision. Whether folks have been dealing with this for a long time and want to push it through or not is really not my concern. That's how they feel, and I understand and I respect their opinion and their decision. I'm just asking folks to also respect mine. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Hurst on the motion.
Yeah, just a question. Is this vote, and maybe this is for Attorney Shea, is this vote to approve the process moving forward? And if so, is the process moving forward that we recommend an independent study to the Historic Commission, and then the funds to pay for that study come from the Economic Development Department? Or is it that they come from the city? Or what is it? Is it they come from the Economic Development when the Economic Development says we have funds? Is there gonna be a line item in next year's budget for the Historic Commission? Are we always going to fund the Historic Commission's independent study?
Yes.
Attorney
And then
Shea?
where's the money coming from? Because I assume this process is gonna be the process that we're gonna follow for the duration.
Council, I think you've got 3 or 4 questions in there. The first one, is this the process going forward? Well, it would be the process going forward because we would be following to the letter of the law, Chapter 40, Chapter 40C, Section 3, which requires the process that a study be done by the Historic Commission, independent, not by an advocacy group coming in and saying, here's our study, use that. So the law requires that the Historic Commission, when a request is made, and a request can be made by, the council has a right to make a request, but 99.9% of the requests always come from a citizens group or a citizen. So that's how that would be done. As to the financial piece, there is money in the city budget that the Historic Commission has access to when they incur expenses. Not only that, but the Historic Commission, if it wanted to, would have the authority to charge an entity, if it wanted to, the cost of doing the study, just like the city charges for a lot of services. You come into the clerk's office and you pay for certificates or other documents. You pay in the building department to have plans and permits put out. So it would not be unreasonable if it became necessary, and we were doing a lot of these if the Historic Commission wished to, they would have the authority to get those funds themselves. So I don't know if I've answered the series of questions you had, Counselor, but I tried to remember them as you went through it.
My question really revolves around the process and the money aspect of it all, and who's responsible for it, what the law says, and how can we ensure that the city is always going to fund it when asked, because it seems to me that anybody can ask for it, and the Historic Commission would always have to get an independent study. And I guess if we're approving the process, then it seems to me that we should approve the process of where that money is going to come from, and we should certainly know. And it didn't seem to me in your answer that there was a clear answer as to where it's coming from and who's paying for it.
My understanding, Counselor, is that in years past, the Historic Commission always had a line item budget. I believe that went away during the control board. I'd have to check that, but that's probably when it did. But any expenses that department, that the commission incurred would be, the funds would come from the planning department. They would underfund, provide the funds to have a study done. That's would be the basic
So why
expense
is it
at
coming
that.
from the economic development is the planning department. Yeah, okay. Okay, and so your assumption is that they will always come from the planning department, and we just need to budget accordingly in the future to ensure that the planning department has enough money to always fund. They can't say no, right? Like,
That's right. I mean, I just went through this with the commission because they asked the question of me, could they charge funds? And I gave them an opinion if the commission wanted to charge a citizen or a group the cost of doing a study, they would have the legal right to do that. And the planning department contacted me and said, listen, we take care of those expenses. If they have that, we would cover that for them. So that's where I'm getting that information, Counselor.
so I guess if I'm approving this process, I want to see it written down. This is a process that we're going to have moving forward, especially as it relates to the payment of it. I see right now that the city is willing, but I can only imagine that there may be a time in which, the city might not be willing for a particular individual, and the individual may not have the funds to pay for it if the Historic Commission seeks to charge that particular individual. So I guess I just would like it spelled out a little bit more, which means to me that, I'll be supporting Councilor Davila's motion. It just seems like we ought to get a bit more clarity in writing as to what this process will look like and what it is that we're ultimately approving, as opposed to just doing it one time and for this particular individual.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Are there any further questions relative to the motion to continue by Councilor Davila? Any further comments? Councilor Davila?
More of a question, I guess, than a comment, Mr. President. I'm not entirely sure if the appropriateness of my I guess, request or request, but it seems to me that, there's a lot of good people here. And again, like I said a little while ago, we all want to do the right thing. I think that much is clear to me. But I do feel my head's literally spinning right now. And some people will say, this is very clear, it's very easy. Well, some of us have questions. I have questions. I wonder if appropriate, it will be entirely up to you, my good sir, since there's nobody here from the Historical Commission or from the Economic Department. If it's appropriate, I see a representative from the Preservation Trust, maybe they could give us a 30-second overview if you think that's appropriate into this process.
Without objection, it would be appropriate, Councilor Davila. I do intend to speak on your motion, and I would like to provide that testimony prior to opening it up to outside membership.
That's fine, but it will be appropriate after.
The council is able to hear testimony on any item from anybody in attendance as long as there's no objection.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there any further questions or comments on Councilor Davila's motion to continue? Councilor Hurst, I see your hand is up, but I'm not sure if that is from your previous comments.
My apologies, ignore that. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Brown.
I just had a quick question for Attorney Shea. Thank you, Mr. President. Do we consider the historic committee, what do we consider them? Are they city affiliated with us, or are they like private? What do we consider them as an entity?
As an entity, they're a city commission.
So they're affiliated. We would consider them a city affiliated organization, correct?
Correct.
And the reason why I ask is that when you stated, you said that you were the one who found the information that it was incorrectly filed.
I think I was trying to respond to your question as to where it came from, and I researched the law and found this section that outlines their authority to do studies, and it's required that they do an independent study on their own, that the commission is responsible for doing the study.
Okay, yes, and why would you do it this particular time and not have done it in the past? Like, how did this When I asked, how did this actually
Yeah.
get found?
I can't answer as to why or how it was done or what was done, and some of them were probably done this way. I don't know which ones were and which ones weren't. I only know that the current one that we're dealing with did not follow the statute, and that's why we're here tonight.
And I'm just wondering, what made you actually go and look and find? I mean, it hasn't been found ever. How did you?
It came up, Counselor, because we received correspondence from the owner of the land when they found out that it was going to be subject to being made a historic district. They sent a letter indicating that they might take legal action against the city if they went forward with that. And so I was asked to look to see what grounds they could bring that on under those circumstances, and that's when I found the section of the law to say that I believe this is the way it should be done.
And this doesn't occur, so with this would occur all the time, correct? Because anyone could do it, is what we're saying, correct?
You mean?
This is something that should have already been done.
This is the procedure that technically should be followed, yes. And going forward, now that we're acutely aware of it, we would make sure that it was followed this way.
And just to be clear, you were the individual who red flagged it, okay? And I'm still going to support my colleague, Councilor Edward, but where I have a little bit of a question is, why would you tell the owners of the hospital that information? What would make you tell on?
We didn't tell the owners of the hospital. We simply gave information to the city council at a subcommittee meeting as to the ramifications of the answering the letter as to what were the ramifications that they were making on the illegality or the whatever their claim was. And we pointed out that, listen, there's a state law that says this is the way it should be done, and it wasn't done that way.
And the only reason I ask also is that no one ever caught this ever.
I don't know. I only know from when I got here forward.
It's never been caught. And
some of them may well have been done that way. Don't paint it with a brush that they were all wrong and this is the first time it's right, okay? And those ships have sailed, and their timeline is long gone. They all had an opportunity to go to court. A lot of them did, and they could have raised the issue. If they didn't, it's mute now. So going forward, we're aware of how it should be done. So we'll just make sure that we put it into the box correctly if it comes up again. I mean, I don't know how many more districts we're going to create in town, but, you know.
Well, and I'm curious, wouldn't you think it would be in the best interest of the city to have these kind of disclosures given with just the city itself? Isn't that kind of like telling on us? No? I mean, because we say sometimes we say that we want attorneys that represent us, and if the historic committee is a city organization, if no one ever seen this, they would have got it approved. No one would have went through it. They would have been, hey, everything is great, and we wouldn't be here. No one would have caught them.
That is probably true, Councilor. I'm not disputing that. Okay?
But the city who works for the city caught them, right? And we told on ourselves. Isn't that like a conflict of, that's like when we talk about, when you guys say you can represent the council and be independent. Is that kind of, why would you tell them?
There's probably thousands of statutes out there and rules that all of us miss all the time. It's only when someone comes knocking at your door that you run back and check the rules to see if the house was locked, and you find out it wasn't. So I think now the commission's aware of it, and they'll follow it. Okay?
Thank you, Attorney Shea.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. We're currently on the motion. The motion is to continue this order to the next regular meeting. Is there any further discussion on Councilor Davila's motion? Councilor Govan on the motion.
Mr. President, I have all the information I need to move, so I'm not going to support the motion at this time.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing no further discussion on the motion, I would like to speak on the motion. And relative to that, I am going to cede the gavel to Vice President Edwards for the duration of the motion. Councilor Edwards.
Thank you. President Letterman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to perhaps shine some light on the situation that we're dealing with here, the reason that the order is before us this evening, as well as some of the discussion that's taken place in committee. And I also think that, to be honest with you, the City Council is really trying to make an effort to make sure that we do the right thing. But we are being provided with a large amount of information from multiple different city departments and entities. And we're trying to put that all together to make sure that the process is followed correctly, which certainly this is not the first time the council's had to do that, and that process can take some time. So I want to say my appreciation to the chairman of the Economic Development Committee, Councilor Edwards, for the work that he has done to this point. And I also want to show my understanding and appreciation to all members of the council who are making sure that they can get their facts in order to be able to make the right decision. What we are dealing with here is ultimately the creation of a local historic district. And this body has already heard an ordinance to create that local historic district several months ago. That ordinance was forwarded by the Springfield Historic Commission, and that ordinance was approved on first step unanimously. I share that legislative history because, as I did in the committee meeting that we participated in, I think it demonstrates that there is a desire by members of the Springfield City Council to create a historic district for the particular piece of that parcel, as we do believe that it holds historic credibility and is worthy of being preserved. So our goal here seems to be the same, but we have to make sure we follow the right process to arrive at its ultimate conclusion. And we have to ensure that when that conclusion is arrived at, it is both enforced by the administration and legally defensible, the defense of which will fall to the administration. To that point, the creation of local historic districts is not at the whim of the Springfield Historic Commission. The creation of local historic districts by state law is actually vested with the Springfield City Council. The Springfield City Council creates local historic districts and has created every local historic district that exists in the city of Springfield. We have also implemented, as a part of state law and as state law allows us to, the Springfield Historic Commission. And we have empowered the Springfield Historic Commission to carry out a number of duties, including the initiation of local historic districts, as well as the governance of them as they go forward. Now, let me preface this by saying I am not an attorney. I appreciate the attorneys that advise the City Council. I appreciate the attorneys that are members of the City Council. But over the course of the years of serving here, and with their assistance, I think all of us have gotten fairly well-versed at reading Mass General Law and the city ordinances. And essentially, my understanding, and also based on our committee meetings that we had, is that the Historic Commission can initiate their own creation of a historic district, but we can also initiate the creation of local historic districts and utilize the Springfield Historic Commission as what would otherwise be implemented as the Local Historic District Study Committee, as referred to by Mass General Law. Normally, if you didn't have a historic commission, you'd have to appoint a study committee every single time you wanted to make a historic district. They would prepare the report that is in question, and that report goes to the Mass Historic Department at the Commonwealth, and they review it and issue an opinion, and then it comes back for final approval. There is no process for a resident or an individual to request the Historic Commission or compel the Historic Commission to do anything. If there is an individual shows up to public speak out, as seems to have been the historic practice, and says, hey, I think this parcel may be historic, it is up to the Historic Commission whether or not they proceed forward with the creation of a historic district, right? But to that point, that's different for the city council. And my direction in the Economic Development Committee meeting that we had was for the law department to prepare the initiation of a local historic district to fulfill the goal that seems to exist within this chamber. Why did we see fit to do that? Well, based on the subcommittee meetings that we've had, which we've now had 2 of them, what we have seen in that is that there was a concern raised by the administration relative to the preparation of that original study and it being done by an outside advocacy organization. It is worth noting that during the course of that committee meeting, we received testimony that the creation of that study was actually ordered by the Historic Commission at the advice of staff and members of the Department of Planning and Economic Development who advised them, with a lawyer from the city of Springfield present and in the room. At no point was it brought up that it would be inappropriate for an advocacy organization to prepare the study. And ultimately, the study was drafted by them, reviewed by the Historic Commission, edited by staff in the Economic Development Department, and then approved and adopted by the Historic Commission, sent to Mass Historic, approved by Mass Historic, sent back, approved by the Historic Commission, and approved first step by us. As I said in the Economic Development Committee meeting, I do not actually agree with the assertion of the law department or the administration that that study somehow lacked the independent information and factual information necessary. Mass Historic does not seem to believe that it lacks the necessary information. With this said, we know sitting here in this chamber that we are legislators, we can create the laws, we can issue the orders, but the ultimate implementation of all defense of these orders, of all day-to-day activities, is done by the executive branch of government. And so, as I said in the meeting with the Economic Development Committee, if we seem to agree that there is no immediate threat to this historic structure because it falls under demo delay, because there's been no demolition permit pulled on it, and if the administration is representing that they feel there is a liability in the creation of that report, then we should consider, to ensure that it will be enforced properly by the administration, to ensure that it will be legally defended by the administration, we should put this process in motion and have it done from the perspective of the City Council. So to the degree that this order was requested from the law department to begin that process. And that is why it is my understanding that it is an order and it is not a request. And it is different. It is a different type of situation than if an independent entity showed up at the Historic Commission and requested that there be something considered by the Historic Commission. So ultimately, I think that we want to be in service to the creation of a local historic district. Through this process and the concerns being raised by the law department, we can obviously see there has been a question raised as to the day-to-day and consistent operations of the Historic Commission and its interactions with the Department of Planning and Economic Development and the law department. And I agree that it is worthy for us to ensure that a clear process is defined and ensure that every process moving forward is legally compliant. I am surprised to hear the assertion from the law department here today that the order before us is not in fact a binding order to move this process forward. And so for that reason, and I know we've had a lot of debate here tonight, but to the point of making sure that we actually in fact do get this done correctly, I am actually not opposed to a continuance so that we can make sure that this is in its proper order. And if necessary, another committee meeting, although that may not be necessary. But I just wanted to make sure that the facts are 100% clear, because no counselor has acted improperly. The Historic Commission did not act improperly. The advocates did not act improperly. We have all of the facts in front of us, and I just want to make sure that we arrive at an enforceable and defensible position. And so I wanted to put those facts in front of counselors. As you know, it is rare that I step down, but I really think it's important for folks to understand the entirety, and I conclude by saying we know that the administration of local government can sometimes take an extended period of time That is the job that we signed up for. And so those are my comments on the motion to continue. But I will say if the motion is successful to continue, I will be following up with the chairman of Economic Development, with the Law Department and the Department of Economic Development relative to this matter and relative to the broader consideration of historic districts in the future. That is certainly something that we should ensure we consider as a council. Thank you.
Councilor Whitfield on the motion.
Bravo, Councilor Letterman. That has been the most clear and concise answer to my questions that I have gotten all meeting, and I appreciate it because originally it was my understanding that this order came about because the third party or the owners of the hospital recommended it. So I just want to be clear on what you're saying. That is not how it came about. It came about through Planning and Economic Development, Historic Commission, and Law Department finding some discrepancy and saying that this is needed. Is that correct, Councilor Letterman?
That is correct, Councilor Whitfield. And as I stated, and I state it with respect, because we can have a disagreement on the legal side of things. I don't completely agree with the analysis from the Law Department, but I've learned to pick and choose my battles here at the council over the last 6 years. And I felt that given there was no threat and just on the basis of the meeting that we had, it seemed that councilors were open to restarting the process.
I definitely appreciate your thoroughness, the honesty of you stepping down to give us all the facts as you heard it in the meeting while some of us couldn't be there. I also respect the fact that you stated, and I echo, that we don't have to rush these processes because we had 2 meetings. We could have 10 meetings, but if it's not clear, if it's not a clear understanding, we shouldn't rush a process that could cause us more harm down the line just because we had 2 or 3 meetings and some may not think that it's necessary. Anything that has a fiduciary responsibility that is paid by City of Springfield residents, taxpayer dollars is always going to be a concern to me. I need to know how the money is going to be spent. Why is it going to be spent this way? And how did it come about? So I really applaud you stepping down from the podium. Like you said, you rarely do that, but I really applaud you doing so and giving us clear facts and details as to what transpired, how we got here, and the difference between like a resolution and an order, because I was definitely confused with that. So I was going by what was stated by you and what was stated by oh gosh, why can't I think of Councilor Fenton's name? I respect both of your opinions on that, but I need clarification there. Is it an order or is it a request? Like, that's more information that is not clear. Is there gonna be a procurement process, or do we have any type of invoices that say this is under 10,000, is it under 50,000, where you only have to get 3 quotes? Like, what do we have to do here? Why did the Law Department think that this was a threat and you don't think so? Why did they think so? What did they see? Like, what word include them on to even take this step and to bring this law to fruition that we've missed so many times in the past? Like, what clued them to do that? So I really appreciate you, and this even confirms even more that I will vote to continue this because it's so much big ambiguity, and we need clarity when we're making decisions on behalf of the residents of the city of Springfield to change something to a historic district when, in fact, maybe down the line, we did something wrong and could possibly be sued. That's more litigation, that's more taxpayer dollars to even fight something like that. So I definitely appreciate your thoroughness and you explaining as far as you understand. I'm still gonna vote to continue Councilor Douglas' motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other questions regarding the motion? Hearing or seeing no questions on the motion, Madam, will you please call the roll on the motion?
On the motion to continue, Councilor Walsh.
You're muted, Councilor.
You clarified the vote? Yes
The
or
vote
no?
is on the motion to continue the item to the next meeting, Counselor Walsh. A
Yeah, I
yes
vote
vote
no.
would continue it. Say again?
I oppose the motion, I vote no.
No. Counselor Fenton?
No.
No. Counselor Perez?
No.
No. Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Govan?
No.
No. Counselor Allen?
No.
No. Counselor Brown?
No.
No. Counselor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards?
No.
No. Counselor Curran?
No.
No. Counselor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman?
No.
Madam Clerk, the roll.
We have 4 votes yes, so the motion fails.
Thank you.
I thought you only needed 7 votes.
Counselor Walsh, there were 4 votes yes to continue, so the motion fails.
But weren't there 7 votes in favor?
It failed to continue.
The motion
We're gonna
was,
vote on-
to clarify, members, the vote that we
Okay,
just
get
took
it.
was a motion to continue the item. The vote to continue the item has failed. We now return to the item itself. And the debate at this time is on item 15 in order for the study of the creation of a historic district. On the order, Councilor Edwards.
Mr. President, move the question.
Second.
Second.
Councilor Edwards has called the question. It's been seconded by Councilor Fenton. The vote we will now take is on calling the question. 2/3 majority vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. A yes vote will end debate on this order and send us directly to a vote on the motion. A no vote will continue debate.
Counselor Walsh, on calling the question?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila?
No.
No. Counselor Letterman?
Yes, the motion to call the question passes. The vote we will now take is on item 15, the study order for a study for the creation of a historic district. A yes vote will affirm the order. A no vote will defeat it. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On approving the order, Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Perez?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Whitfield?
No.
No. Counselor Govan?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Hurst?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Click Bruce?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila?
No.
No. Counselor Letterman?
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved. Madam Clerk, please call item 16.
Item 16 is an order amending the Community Preservation Committee ordinance to allow holdover terms, Chapter 16, the Article 20, Community Preservation Committee, Section 16 through 75, terms of office.
Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I propose this change to the ordinance tonight in order that we would allow for members of the Community Preservation Act Committee whose terms expire to continue to serve in their seat until their successor is qualified and appointed. The reason for this is that we've found on occasion that appointments can come up and expire, and before a successor is appointed and qualified, if that member is forced to step down, it can create quorum issues. So for this reason, I'm making this requested change to the ordinance tonight. I was the one that drafted this ordinance when we did it about 6 years ago, and I think that it's hopefully just an administrative remedy that we can approve tonight. With that said, I do want to also tell my colleagues that I brought this forward because I thought it would be an easy one for us to approve without much controversy. I do intend to bring a second proposal at our next meeting, which may invite a little bit more discussion and have room for more reasonable disagreement. And that proposal is going to be to eliminate the term limit that is put on members of the Community Preservation Act Committee. Again, when I drafted this and the council approved it about 6 years ago, the thought was that this new pot of money that was going to be taken from taxpayers and reappropriated for eligible programs would be one that should utilize the maximum and most diverse amount of public input. And I think the board has shown to us that they can do that. At the same time, we do have some members who have provided tremendous value, not just to this group, but also to the city, who are expected to term off in the very near future. And as a result of that, and combining it with the fact that I'm not aware of any other boards in the city that have term limits, I am, at a future meeting, going to propose eliminating the term limits for this board. But tonight, the vote is just to allow members whose terms have expired to stay until their successor is approved and qualified. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. This ordinance is on for first step. Is there any discussion on the ordinance? Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through the presidency, if Councilor Fenton could give us a quick refresher how the CPA members are appointed.
Councilor Fenton.
So I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but there's one appointment that's made by the Conservation Commission, one by the Parks Commission, one by the Council President, one by the Springfield Preservation Trust, and the balance of the appointments are with the mayor. So if I recall correctly, we structured it so that the mayor has a minority of the appointments. I think it's 5 total appointments that are specific seats, and then he or she has 4. I'd have to go back and look, but that, I hope, generally answers your question of who the appointing authorities are.
Thank you. And if I may, through the presidency, so you are looking, sir, to allow them to continue to serve when their term have expired, correct?
Correct.
I'm just trying to think, wouldn't they just be reappointed or appoint somebody else?
Well,
I'm just
under
trying
the
to
current,
think of the situation that may happen.
if I may, Mr. President.
Councilor Fenton.
I think, so Councilor Davila is asking, well, why wouldn't they just be reappointed instead of letting them sit in an empty seat? That speaks to the second part that I'm going to bring in a couple weeks, which is some of them can't be reappointed because they've termed out. They've already served the maximum number of terms, and their appointing authority, whoever that is, whether it's the trust or the mayor or the council president, can't reappoint them because they've already served 2 successive terms.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Perez. Councilor Perez.
I was having problem. I'm in favor of the ordinance. The only concern that I have, and I wish we could expand on it, we should have a time frame that the person is going to roll over. And that's the only concern I have with this, because then we pass the ordinance and then we forget, and 50 years later, and I'm just exaggerating, we have the same person there. Could we have a time frame? And I want Councilor Fenton to emphasize on that matter, please. Thank you.
Councilor Fenton.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Perez. That's a point well taken. We certainly don't want people just sitting in unfilled positions forever. I think if it is okay with the council, I'd prefer to delay that discussion until we take on this second question about the elimination of the term limits altogether. I wouldn't be opposed to having a period of time that was stipulated, but the current proposal doesn't have a limit. It just says until their successor is appointed and qualified.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Are there any further members? Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just curious. It's a great idea, definitely great, and I definitely want to commend my colleague. I have an individual in my area who's iconic. I know Council President Letterman knows Miss Gagnon. Could this maybe work when someone age out, maybe using a previous person also to fill in? Because she's historic. I mean, there's a lot of things that we lost when she was no longer able to do it. And it's like, wow, I mean, this is a great idea because there's a lot of knowledge when they age out. We have her sitting in the in the corner, and it's like we could use her. Have you ever thought of that?
Was Fran a member of the CPC, or because she was the chair of the Historic Commission for years and years and years, but I don't think she was ever on the Community Preservation Act committee.
But she knows everything.
Yeah, we would welcome Fran's participation, definitely. And if we got rid of the term limits and, for example, someone like with institutional knowledge, like Councilor Brown said, wanted to rejoin the board and had previously departed as a result of being termed off, then this second proposal that's not currently before us would allow for that to happen. So I would say yes, we could do that.
Okay, once again, I want to thank you for another great job. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brown. Is there any further deliberation on first step? Councilor Perez?
Yeah, just for a point of view, I agree with my colleague, colleague Brown. You know what, one of the things that it came to mind when it came to the time frame, because the demographic of the city is changing as well. And we have to look at equity and the makeup composition of the city as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Is there any further deliberation amongst members prior to our vote on first step on this ordinance? Councilor Fenton.
I would just say, Mr. President, especially in light of Councilor Perez's comments, I would make a motion to amend this proposal. So Gladys, it says each member shall continue in office after the expiration of their term until a successor is duly appointed and qualified, provided the person remains a member of the body they represent, and then we would just insert comma for a period not to exceed 1 year.
Thank you. Councilor Fenton's made a motion to amend his ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Brown. Is there any discussion on Councilor Fenton's amendment to his ordinance? His amendment to his amendment of the ordinance. Seeing no further discussion, we're zipping through this one. Members, if there's no further discussion on this amendment, then Madam Clerk, please call the roll on authorizing Councilor Fenton's amendment. Again, councilors, this is just on amending the language before us tonight. A yes vote will amend the language. A no vote will return us to debate on the item. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the amendment, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Kern.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The amendment is approved. We return to debate on the order. Is there any discussion on first step of the ordinance? Seeing no further discussion, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approving the amendment to the ordinance. A yes vote will send this to the next step. A no vote will defeat the ordinance amendment.
On approval, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor. Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The ordinance amendment passes first step. Madam Clerk, please call the final item.
Final item is an order to amend Chapter 327-13-M.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm putting forward this ordered amendment in conjunction with Councilor Fenton and the Mayor Sarno. This is a continuation, Mr. President, of the advisory committee that was created, that I created back at the beginning of the year. And in that committee, just a way of reminding some of the history, I'm glad to say that we made 13 recommendations to the mayor, and the mayor has adopted some of those recommendations, this being one of them, Mr. President. And so what we are seeking to do is, first, we're looking to pass first step on this ordinance, and the current structure for illegal dumping, and this relates to illegal dumping, now, we're talking about large item, Mr. President. We're talking about the refrigerators, the tires, the stoves they get dumped. Unfortunately, here in my district, in Forest Park, that happens quite often in the park itself and through other parks throughout the city. So we have a stacking system right now that it goes $100 for the first offense, $200 for the second offense, and $300 for the third offense. What we're suggesting is that, one, we do away with that, and we institute a $500 ticket per offense. We are also instituting that, similarly to what we did with the fireworks ordinance, Mr. President, that if the person does not pay the fine for illegal dumping, is going to be registered with the Registry of Motor Vehicle, and it's going to be attached to potentially both the driver's license and or the car registration. And to just reemphasize, we're not going after the person that throws the wrapper on the floor. We're talking about the large bulk items, stoves, tires, refrigerators. And so that is the intent of this ordinance. We're looking to pass first step, and I do appreciate Councilor Fenton for supporting this. And we met with the mayor, and the mayor is enthusiastically behind this. And this, Mr. Mayor, will send a clear message to those knuckleheads out there that love to throw a legal dump in our city, that we take our cities seriously, that we take the vista and the cleanliness of our city seriously, and that we are also take our environment very seriously. So that is the ordinance, and I hope my colleague will support this and pass first step today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. This ordinance similarly is on for first step. Is there any further deliberation amongst the council? Seeing none? Oh, Councilor Fenton.
Just wanted to echo Councilor Davila's comments, and in full support, happy to be a co-sponsor and work with him on it.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Click Bruce.
Just a quick comment. Thank you, Council President. I just want to commend Councilor Davila and Councilor Fenton for bringing this forward. It's something that's needed in our city to help clean it up, and I think it's a great idea. So it's something I'll be supporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Click Bruce. Is there any further deliberation? Councilor Hurst.
I too want to thank my colleague, Councilor Davila. I guess the only question that I would ask Councilor Davila to consider is whether we can ensure that the money collected from this illegal dumping can be used towards reducing the fee to purchase a bulk item sticker for the following year. So just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Is there any further deliberation on this order? Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to commend the counselors for their work. I want to take it a step further than what Councilor Hurst said, and said maybe the funds could go directly toward cleaning up the litter in the city. Thank you, and I would love to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Whitfield as a co-sponsor. Are there any further questions? Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes, please add me as a co-sponsor as well.
Thank you, Councilor Click Bruce. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Click Bruce. Are there any further questions, or is there any more deliberation amongst the council prior to our vote on first step? Councilor Perez.
Yes, please add me to the ordinance, please. Thank you as a smart co-sponsor.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Perez. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, Oh, Councilor Govan?
I think this is a great idea. Thank you, Mr. President. And I think I commend Council Fenton and Council Davila for bringing it up. I guess my concerns would be around the immediate $500 fine as opposed to incrementing it. I know that, a lot of people in the city don't have a lot of money, and if they don't pay the $500 fine, then if it's going to be attached to their license, they might not be able to renew it, they won't be able to go to work, they won't be able to pay it, and it's kind of like a cycle. And it just reminds me of, I think what I've said in the past is that it's very expensive to be poor. And a lot of times maybe people that do the dumping, which is not right, I can't stand it. I always get a lot of complaints about it. So I'm glad that we're thinking about this, but I just would be cautious, I guess, about taking away people's livelihoods. That's going to make them be able to make money so that they could pay the fines and all that stuff. So I'm in favor of this, but I think that we might want to think about maybe the increments like we had before. I think a $500 fine is, I think, the ultimate penalty, and maybe even more, especially if they're like corporations or big companies that are doing the dumping. So thank you for the time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Are there any further questions or matters of deliberation prior to our vote? Councilor Hurst and Councilor Perez, I do see your hands up. I wasn't sure if those are from your previous comments, but you do wish to comment?
I did have a quick.
We'll go to Councilor Hurst first, and then we'll go to Councilor Perez. Yep, we'll go to Councilor Hurst and then Councilor Perez.
To Councilor Govan's point, I also, and I'm hopeful that we consider what constitutes illegal dumping and how we're identifying the individuals who have done the illegal dumping. It seems to me that when we have it on camera, that certainly is extremely clear and obvious, but I also wonder what other incidents outside of those that we're able to catch on camera that we're charging folks with illegal dumping. I would hate to end up charging the wrong individual just because of a lack of resources and being able to prove that a particular individual was responsible. So just something to consider as you move forward with this ordinance.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Davila, if you wish to respond, we'll go to you, and then we'll come to Councilor Perez on the next topic.
Yes, I just want to respond to both Councilor Hurst and Councilor Govan. Councilor Hurst, I thank you for your idea of the main money being allocated towards the litter cleanup efforts. I would definitely parlay with Councilor Fenton and the mayor and make that suggestion. I think that's a great idea, and I thank you for that, sir. That way it creates a steady revenue. Supporting the revenue. Councilor Govan, I hear what you say, something that I actually looked myself took into consideration, and we compare the fines in other parts of the city. I believe Worcester and Boston, for example, they do $1,000. I think the state is $2,500. So we thought that $500 is a clear message, is a good compromise for this. And again, address the intent of this is to protect our parks. People, again, that go out, they have the back of the bus of the car filled, and they go and they dump it. And I know the administration and Patrick Sullivan from the Parks Department, in the past, they have put out videos shaming people who do that. And it's something that we have had issues with in Forest Park, on Porter Lake. It's a constant fight on Porter Lake for people to be the illegal dumping there in the woods in the Porter Lake in my district. And that's actually talk about potentially putting a camera there as well. So I agree with you. I am very cognizant of people's livelihood and people's money. But by the same token, we need to protect our city, our environment, and it's just not an acceptable thing to do to just go out and blatantly, as we all know, dumped all these things in our parks in our city. I hope that you put your mind at ease, Councilor Govan, and thank you everybody for supporting this.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Excuse me, Councilor Perez?
Yes, I just wanted to ask the question as being new in the council. So it's first step, correct? In the first step, could we bring up in the committee some other concerns that we might have? I mean, one of the concerns I have the motor vehicle, what would be the process so the community will understand very clear what the process is. And I concur with my colleague, Councilor Davila, because I have a particular street that I don't want to disclose, but it has been a dumping for many years here in the north end. And it's people that are hired to take all the dumps from the houses and they just dropping in on that particular street. So that was my presentation as of now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. And just to answer your question on the process, this item is on for first step. So even if it passes tonight, it will need to have at least one more vote, if not two, depending on how the council proceeds at the next meeting. And then traditionally, we hold a general government committee meeting between now and the next regular meeting to consider any ordinances that passed first step. So there will be additional time for discussion and amendments. Obviously, our other options this evening are to refer the item to committee, to continue the item, or to defeat the item. On the order, Councilor Allen.
My question was on the, my question was on the process. And could we count on, obviously there's some questions already on it. Can we count on a meeting being held? And will that be a meeting specific to this, or will it be a general government meeting?
Would be a general government meeting, and both orders from this evening would appear on that agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I agree with some of my colleagues, Councilor Perez and Councilor Allen. I'm just looking for clarification. Obviously, this is the first step, so it will go to committee. So we're being asked to approve a fine of $500 for illegal dumping of large items, but I'm not clear about the motor vehicle piece.
Councilor Walsh.
Is that part of this?
Councilor Walsh, I can ask the sponsor, Councilor Davila, to clarify that for you. Just prior to us doing that, I would like to warn members that we are approaching the 10 o'clock hour, which will automatically invoke Rule 54, the Fenton Rule, which will terminate the meeting, short of a motion from members of the council unanimously approved. So at 9:58, Councilor Davila, you're recognized to respond to Councilor Walsh.
I will answer briefly. Maybe Councilor Fenton could chime in after if he wishes. So, but yes, Councilor Walsh, it is similar to the fireworks ordinance. The person will be given the fine if it's not paid after I believe it's 90 days perhaps, then it may, I believe that's a trigger, something that they will have to, a warning that they haven't paid the fine. And then after, I can't remember the timeline right now, but then it gets registered with the motor vehicle. And if they don't pay it, then it gets attached to the license or to the registered car. So, so there's ample time for the person to pay the fine if they're given the fine. And hopefully a $500 fine will send a message and they won't do it again. But if my colleague, Councilor Fenton, Mr. President, has something to add, I would be more than happy to yield.
Councilman Fenton?
Yeah, I think Councilor Davila covered it. And I would also just add that we're not proposing to do anything differently than how the current dumping ordinance works with respect to attachment. It's just what's changing is the number. That's all. So I don't have an intimate understanding of how that works. We can get that sorted out before the next meeting if people would like, but it's not our proposal to change how that works. It's just a proposal to change the fee schedule.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Walsh?
Well, in the 10 seconds we have left, I will support the referral to committee, but I do think there are some questions to be answered.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. At this time, are there any further questions on the final ordinance before us? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of first step.
On approval of first steps, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The ordinance passes first step. Madam Clerk, is there any further business properly brought before this body?
There is not.
Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned at 10 o'clock.
Good job.